My hair is a mess. I gotta talk close like this because I ain't got no shirt on. Some of y'all be getting offended. Put a shirt on. So, I'm not trying to offend anyone. Anyway, so what's the best country to live in? Some people will argue that America is the best country to live in. But, uh, I haven't lived in every country. I was talking to a guy yesterday from Morocco, how it is in Morocco and how it's very poor. Hey, what's going on? How you doing today? What's going on, Queen? Shoot. But he was explaining to me how living in Morocco is like a very, very strict culture, but there's a lot of poor people. And he said if you have $1 in Morocco, it's or $1 in America, it's $10 in Morocco. So you could go there and pretty much live like a king, on minimum wage or whatever, because it's such a poor country. But anytime you have a very, very poor country like that, you also have the crime rate that's off the chain. So, yeah, there's that. You could live like a king, but you're going to get robbed a lot. And the police are probably not going to be of very much help to you. And the reason why we know this is because we see what's going on in our neighboring countries. We don't have to go halfway around the world. We can just go to Mexico and, how the one guy explained how the police are actually the criminals in Mexico. So, truthfully, I think that's the same wherever you go. Because they can get away with so much, you find very few ones that are there for to actually serve and protect because there's so much money involved in getting around the law, breaking the law when you represent the law. It's easy to be tempted. You're making 45, 50,000 to go out there and risk your neck every day. You're like, I'm gonna go in. You know, we just found these drug dealers who were doing whatever, and they have what, 1 million plus sitting in front of us, and I'm gonna go turn that in unmarked? No, I'm not. I'm gonna go ahead and take this. And this is why you have a lot of police here in America that are they get, I mean, they go after drug dealers like it's nothing because they're keeping the money. You can easily say how much money was taken when you're the one who took it. So if there's 1 million plus there, you can say, there was only 500,000 there. You know, man, it was a big score. It was 500,000 there. You know, 10 keys or whatever. And anybody worth, their salt can pretty much add up that there was probably a lot more than that. And you're the ones who took it. And the reason why we know this is because cops have been busted doing this, over and over and over again. But there are some good ones out there, or that information would never be bestowed to us. So there's within the law, there's good and bad. But where you have the law, then you have the country. So, and then you have the country's ethics now. He was telling me how women in Morocco are beautiful and, yada, yada, yada. Every country has beautiful women. Um, Even if you're not so much attracted to them, every country has what is deemed beautiful in someone's eyes. So let me say that. Because there's some countries I'm just like, yeah, she's nice looking, but I like dark skinned, uh, African American women. They attract me the most. But that doesn't mean that somebody from, Guam or Bangladesh or something isn't what I would say is beautiful to my eyes either. It's just that I'm more attracted to my people, which is the same for everyone. Nonetheless, he was saying that the women, their code of ethics is they don't cheat. cheating is a bad deal. Like, cheating will get you, beat up and ousted by the family. And even worse, we know that, you know, United Kingdom of Arabs, where they just did in 35 men. They just went and beheaded 35 men for alleged crimes that nobody can prove. And of course, the governments, United States and England and all that, wanted to look into is just like y'all are knocking people off left and right. What are y'all looking into? Look at yourselves, before you go deeming some other country, whatever. Like you guys are over here doing the worst to people, just the worst, and you're gonna go off on them because nah, get out of here. Nonetheless, so there's a lot going on over there, and the way they treat their women over there is those women are trying to escape. We're talking about Dubai and places like that. You see these princesses that are trying to leave their husbands, and because they have all this money, but they're trapped. They don't have, what they would consider freedom. And then you have what America or what the European woman, because when you look at the European woman, their freedom is not exactly what I would say everyone should strive for, because they do the most. They take advantage of everything. They do whatever, and they'll cut you in half if they think you're trying to come against their so-called liberties. So I don't know. I've lived in Germany. I've been to Spain, England, France, Canada. So, what is, or what would you consider, okay, what would you consider a good place to live other than the U.S., you know? And when you consider this, you got to consider safety. My phone, man. I'm getting a new phone, I swear I am. I'm just sick of this phone. You got to consider safety. You have to consider jobs. You have to consider whether you'll be able to work or not. You have to consider, feeding a family, growth, the GDP. There's so much to consider when it comes to, up and moving to another state. And it's how they look at you. Because if you're, a white person, moving into certain parts of the continent of Africa, you're not welcome. There are listen, there are certain certain countries in Africa that white people are not welcome. They're not. And they're having it really, really bad because these people are getting rid of them for stealing their country. They stole their country, and they did heinous crimes to black people, uh, and they thought it was cool. And now that apartheid is over with, you find a lot of poor white people in those countries, and those Africans are committing heinous crimes against humanity to the people that are left there. And one guy said, because what they did to his grandmother is, I just, but I'm not African. So who knew what his grandmother and her people did to his family? So, I don't know, but what they did to her was, listen, you got to be God conscious. You got to think, is God going to get me for this? But when you see so much damage to ethics and so much damage to morals, and nobody cares, and people throw it all out the window, and the things that they did to people during the apartheid, they didn't care about God. They didn't fear God. And so now you have the same thing turning around. And I mean, they took a literal drill to this woman. They tied her up took a drill to her knees and they drilled through her kneecaps, both of them. And they did the same thing to her feet. Some old lady. But like I said, when that old lady was a young lady, apartheid was going on. And the land that they sit on now that this was done in, the land that they're in, that they're on, that land was stolen from from some farmer. It was just they just took it and made up all these laws to protect the people who took the land, and they lived on it. Now, who knew if she was in on it? I don't know where her guilt would be, but what you do know is that she benefited from it, and it came back to haunt her in a bad way, in a very, very, very bad way. And they took their time, torturing this woman. And the son was like, look, it's not a matter of if they're going to get to us, and do all these things to us. He said it's a matter of when. So, some countries over there, the president has said all white people leave our country. And listen, I think that's fair. They're like, and the white people who own all this farmland over there in South Africa, all this farmland, they're talking about give us, pay us, and then we'll leave. And the Africans are like, we're not paying you anything. You didn't pay us for it. You didn't buy that land. You stole that land. You didn't buy it. You didn't pay one penny for it. You came in, you killed the farmers and their family. You took all this land, and then you set up a house, and then you sold to other white people who did the same thing. And this is how you guys lived. And you want us to pay? No. And they told him, they said, listen, you got a certain amount of time until you get off this land. And if you don't, we're coming to see you. So you have a lot of, no, this is on Vice. I saw it all on Vice. Now, so you have people who are smart and they're leaving. And I think it's fair to give you a warning. Listen, we don't want to come and commit these heinous crimes to you. If I was one of the Africans in charge, I would do the same thing. I'd say, listen, I'm not going to come to your house and do all these things to you, but somebody will. It is only a matter of time. The murder rate is off the chain, and you need to be fully aware that there are millions of us who are upset at the way you took this land. Now, you have two options, and that's it. There's no cavalry coming for you. There's no Rambo. There's no Great White Hope. None of that. You can set up as many fences and have as many guns as you want to. But the fact is, the people will still come after you full fledged until they get what they want, which is their land back. You cannot you cannot sell us something that you stole. That it's just not going to happen. You cannot sell us something you stole. So here's your choices. You can leave willingly. We'll give you time. What do you need? 2 months to pack up and leave? Fine. You got 2 months. Pack your stuff up. Stop selling your stuff right now. You're not benefiting no more. Anything you sell, anything you sell is going to go straight to, the families that you tore apart. And that's it. You're not benefiting. You're not getting no more money. You're not nothing. Anything you sold is going to go to the families that you tore apart. And that's it. So you can keep selling, but you're going to give that money. You're not going to sell anything to us. You're going to give that money to us. And that's it. And we're going to give you enough money to get out the country and to go whatever country that you're going to. You have so and so much time, so much money to leave the country in 2 months. If you do not leave the country in 2 months, you will expire at the end of the 2 months. There's not going to be 2 months in one day. At the end of the 2 months, we're coming to see you. and there's going to be a lot of us. You will not be able to shop. You won't be, listen. We will get into your house, and that's what these people have done. They've some of these people, like I said, are older, so they're not as mobile. They can't protect themselves as much. There's just not as many of them. And these Africans, they stalk them. They just sit and wait and watch them. They watch where they go. They wait till they leave the house or wait till they're alone. And then they're, you know, committing these heinous crimes uh, out of anger of what was done to them. So some of these places not a good place to go right now. But you got some places in Africa, some countries in Africa that are people think that they're all dusty and dirty and whatnot. It's like nah, go to Senegal or something like that. You know what I'm saying? There's look at the GDP. Like I said, gross domestic product. Look and see if the country is thriving. You know what I'm saying? Uh, if you're gonna go into Mogadishu, you're gonna be looking for some trouble because they have a high crime rate because the people who run it, last I heard, were crime lords. If you're looking to go to some of these island countries, you're gonna have issues because they're ran by crime lords. So you have to be very careful of where you choose to go because you're not gonna step foot there and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, we love you." They're going to want something from you. And some places you might not come back. And we've seen recent reports all over the world where white people, have gone into some of these countries. One woman they say she jumped out of a plane, but I don't believe it. Her and a couple other people got in a fight on a little twin engine plane, and suddenly she gets, they say she opened the door and jumped out. No parachute, three something, 3,500 feet in the air. I don't believe that. You look at these scientists that are coming up missing. These are all white people. These are all people who I'm white. I can go wherever I want because we divided and conquered every country on the planet. Well, guess what? Every country on the planet is pissed at you. Every country on the planet that you divided and conquered has an issue with you because they still remember what you did. Every single one of them. If you are some type of European, now if you are Russian, it's different. You know what I'm saying? If you're from Switzerland, not so much anger towards Switzerland. That little skirmish we have with ASAP Rocky, who cares? But Switzerland, never been in a war. No slaves. You know, uh, uh, Russia uh, does not hate black people. They have their issues, but they don't all out hate black people. They have a high crime rate because they're into a lot of stuff. But nonetheless, they don't look at black people and go, because they never enslaved us. You know who Russia had for slaves? Other Russians. They never enslaved black people. So, when you don't have, when you don't have that, like the French go places, everybody knows what the French did. When the French go back into Africa or the Dutch go back into Africa, we know who you are. We know the Dutch created AIDS and lied to the people and said it was something to make them feel better. They gave them they were said they were killing a disease, and all these African people lined up and they were putting a disease in them. That's where AIDS came from. It came from a Dutch scientist, not from a green monkey, from a Dutch scientist. And even before that, Leopold killed 15 million. Was it Nigerians? Was it Nigerians that he killed? I think it was Nigerians. Nah, it was Senegalese. One of them. He went to one country and pretty much massacred 15 million of them. So they still have that sting. They still have that contempt. You just can't shed blood, innocent blood, and think that nobody's watching and it's not coming back to you. The Dutch are the De Beers, the people who okay, so the diamond mines in some of these countries, and one of them is Nigeria. They have black. They still do this today. They have black people who Nigerians who works all day with like dad and son. Your 10-year old is in there slaving to find these diamonds. Working your butt off, and there are armed white men standing there watching you work, so you don't sneak any diamonds away. This is still going on. Of course, those diamond mines are being, dried up. But those are the Dutch. That's why I can't stand diamonds. I don't look at a diamond and go, ooh, I don't look at people, these rappers and whatnot, run around with all these diamonds. I don't blame these rappers though, uh, uh, for having these diamonds. I don't go, do you know there are people who died? I don't do that because that's not the rapper's calling. That's not their call. They're if they're not conscious, that's you don't beat them down because they're not conscious. They're just not conscious rappers. They're doing exactly what where they're placed to be. If that's the way they want to live, that's the way they want to live. You notice most of the conscious rappers don't have a lot of money, but most of the rappers who talk about all this idiocy and degrading women and all this have millions and millions of dollars. I don't envy none of them. None of them. But nonetheless, the beers still today, they're the Dutch. They're the ones. If you ever saw Hotel Rwanda was about uh, was about uh, forgot what country. What was it? What country was it? Rwanda. Nonetheless, the country that had a mass genocide of two clans, basically, kind of like our Crips and Blood nonsense that people go through. And now it's so deep rooted, people are just, but the way it was started, and let me say this: Crips and Blood was not started as gangsters. They were started as people to protect their area, and they were neighborhood watchmen. They weren't started off in all this other stuff. It didn't start off like that. They were watchmen. They were started off to benefit their hood, and it turned into something else. Of course, with the help of TV, and then the Jewish who came and said, we're going to change music, and then that's what they did. And next thing you know, you had NWA. But nonetheless, but what they did over there, as far as the movie Hotel Rwanda, what they did is they told the Hutsis and the Hutus and the Hutsis and the Hutus or something like that, Tutsis, the Hutus and the Tutsis or something like that. I don't know their names. Somebody will correct me. But they told them that one was better than the other when they're all the same people. They said one's better than the other, and the difference is their nose. Anyways, your boy Tone 202. This is more like a podcast than anything, and